What happens if you need to retire sooner than you expected, sooner than you're ready? What are the reasons that could cause that? And yeah, how do you prepare? Got that and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. Was recently working with some clients where their retirement age needed to move up considerably. And it was sort of a crisis, and it was, this event happened. Am I able to be done? Am I able to retire early? And we're thankful that we've been serving them and through the comprehensive financial planning process, so their financial life was decisionable. We've used those terms before if you're a daily watcher of the Wise Money Show, and so you know what I mean. But basically, we were able to update their 5-factor retirement plan, talk through the trade-offs, and actually, in this instance, we're able to say, "Yep, you're good to go." Yeah, and the client had the confidence, the clarity and confidence that they were not only making a good decision for their financial situation, but a good decision for their life. Could that be you? Where maybe throughout your entire career, you're thinking, yeah, I'll probably be done. I think all of us, or many of us, naturally want to be done as soon as possible. So here's what I think as soon as possible is, and I'm just doing everything that I can to save up and be ready to retire at this age. And then life happens. And all of a sudden you need to retire sooner. And the issue is, okay, right? If you're wanting to retire as soon as possible and then you need to retire sooner, that's great, right? What could be bad about that? Well, if you're not ready, if life forces something on you, but financially you're not ready, and all of a sudden it's, well, I'll just have to figure it out. What are some of those reasons so that you can be aware and see, well, what are the chances something like this would happen to me? And then how do you prepare? Well, the first reason you may need to retire sooner than you expect and sooner than you're ready is to care for an aging parent. And that was a situation we're talking about where there was a crisis and all of a sudden there was care needed. And when you're dealing with that takes a priority. It takes a priority over a lot of the things that maybe you had in mind. I know for us personally, now this was a long time ago, but my wife's father was diagnosed with early onset in his mid-50s, and it accelerated. And yeah, Cindy needed to leave work, and she went down to just working one day a week and all of that, and it was a lot to juggle. But when that happens, that's the most important thing. And everything else sort of takes a back seat to attending to that. And right, many of us, you might find yourself in the sandwich generation where you're needing to still care for kids who are young adults, but also needing to care for aging parents. And when that squeezes you, that may cause you to need to retire a couple years earlier than you had been planning, and then you had expecting, and then you were ready, right? So be aware of that. That's one such reason. A second reason that you may need to retire sooner than what you expected is a change at your work. Now that change, that's a pretty broad statement. It could be a downsize or a shift, or all of a sudden there's a package or a buyout. Yep, that could be. That used to be common. It's not as common anymore. But we just also had one where someone said, called into their advisor, their financial planner here, and said, am I able to retire this year? And in the meeting, talked through, okay, well, what happened? You weren't planning to retire for another 5 years, and they were planning on working until 70, but he said, I just got a new boss, and he's a few decades younger than me, can't stand him, I need to be done. Can I be done? And I know that's kind of funny to think about, not funny to go through, right? But but that was more of a want than a need. And yeah, they were able to do the math and update the analysis and stress test it and say, yeah, you could be done sooner, because they were planning on working past their financial independence anyway. But what about technological changes? I've got to learn a new software, or system changes. I've got to learn a new system. And at this age, it's native to do it the old way. Guys, I had someone that was planning on working until their late 60s and felt like the tide was shifting with technology and the pace of work at his organization, which he loved all the way up until he retired, but he continued to feel like he wasn't keeping up. And he was able to do that for a couple of years, but that takes a toll on you. At an organization that you love, in a role that you've done for a long time and you've been the best at, to all of a sudden feel like every day you're actually not getting traction, you're not really succeeding, there's only so much of that you can take before you say, I think I need to be done. So a change at work could cause you to need to retire sooner. And then a third way is a change in your own health, right? A change in your own health where you have a health issue that now all of a sudden makes it more difficult for you to do your job. Could mean that maybe your outlook on life is a little bit different and you change your perspective on work and your time. And so that could cause you to rethink your retirement time. And if your entire career, I'm going to retire, I'm going to work until 65, and then all of a sudden you have a health change at 63, you might say, you know what? I'm gonna be done now. So those are just 3 of the reasons why you may retire sooner than what you've been planning on. There's a longer list, but what do you do to prepare for it? How can you be prepared? If you're thinking, I'm gonna retire at this age, how can you be prepared for that, but also be prepared to retire sooner? Well, first is you've got to be doing that 5-factor retirement plan work. There's 5 factors that are decisions that are interrelated, that you make, that you get to choose, that you get to have influence over, that determine your retirement readiness. And we've talked about this before. Age is the very first one. When do you want to be done? And then how much will you spend? And there's a lot of sub-factors to each of these, by the way. I'm going over, skimming the waves here. How much income will you have in retirement? How much have you saved up and how much are you continuing to save up? And then what investment risk are you comfortable taking? Those are the 5 factors. So you first need to build out those 5 factors, and then along the way, it's not a bad idea to be looking and saying, well, plan to retire at 65, that's important. What if you needed to retire at 63? What would that look like? And just sort of do that fire drill a few times and stress test your plan to see if that could work. That's number 1. And number 2 is connected to that, and that is ensure that that plan stays up to date so that your financial life is decisionable. What would be worse than all of a sudden having to deal with an aging parent who needs care and needs assistance is to then need to scramble and find a financial planner that you trust, that takes the right process and all of that. My guess is that might feel like too much chaos and might take too long at a time when you're dealing with a lot of emotions, a lot of challenges in your life. And so maintaining that relationship with your certified financial planner, and more importantly, keeping that financial plan up to date, that 5-factor retirement plan up to date so that your financial life is decisionable, that's the second thing that I would tell you to do. And then finally, during your career, if you have the capacity to save more, even if you're on track with your retirement plan and maybe don't need to, consider saving more. Consider saving more. If you have the capacity to do so, save even more so that you have more flexibility and more choice. Remember a long time ago working with an individual who had a very good income and could save a lot. When he came in was just sort of saving the maximum and just what he could to his tax shelters, and that was it. And I said, wait a second, you could save a lot more, and they didn't spend that much. So he was like, yeah, well, I'm saving enough. I'll be able to retire when I want to. I know, but are you nimble? What if something happens? And turns out they have, and their family have dealt with a lot of health issues, and his work has had to flex and bend with that. And I'm grateful. I'm glad that he took the advice to then start saving up considerably more outside of his tax shelters so that he could be prepared. So do the same thing in your situation. So there you have it. Going back to that 5-factor retirement plan, that age, many of us get to choose that age, but not all of us. There are times when there's forces outside of your control, maybe that cause you to need to retire at a different time against your will, against your hope and intention, but you're gonna need to, and therefore the question is, are you ready? Be working with your certified financial planner, build out that 5-factor retirement plan, do that stress test, save as much as you possibly can, and be prepared for what the future holds. Work with your CFP on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com, that's Korhorn with a K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or give us a call, 574 247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.